In brightest day, in blackest night, all other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellows scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation. Chad and Mars face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the light.
Hi everybody, I'm Jim Ford.
I'm Mark Marble.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 397. The quarantine episode.
This is the worst title ever.
That's right. It's the worst time ever, so it matches perfectly.
Fair enough. So what are we talking about tonight?
I think we have an assorted grab bag of stuff related to hobbies, toys, what we're doing during quarantine. Luckily enough, for a good laugh, we get to talk about the guidelines for Florida for reopening theme parks.
Oh yes.
There's lots of little things that we can talk about. It's funny. Before we started recording, I was watching a couple of videos on more exciting Kathleen Kennedy news about how she ruined Star Wars and ruined the Imagineers' plans of building Star Wars land all around Tatooine and Mos Eisley Cantina until she basically told them, I don't want you to do that.
Oh God.
If it's true, but supposedly they had been working for about 2 years on once I guess probably since the merger took place or the acquisition, about we're gonna do this and we'll build it next to Star Tours and this and all that, and then she said, do we really want to build something based on Tatooine, which 50-something-year-old Star Wars fans see as Star Wars, or do we want to build something that the future fans, for the future? Yeah. Good luck with that. Steer, Ike one.
Listen, I want to go to Star Wars land. I could care less that it's, actually, was it Bat? It's not Batu.
Yes, it is Batu.
It is Batu.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can't keep everything straight, but what you call it? Yeah, everybody knows Tatooine, or it could have been any number of Star Wars worlds that anybody has seen or heard of that people might actually have a connection to.
Right. And they could have expanded, and they obviously had room to expand. So it was not to cut you off, I'll make this quick, but it's logical. They could have give people what and they know they like now, and then after the new movies come out, and if they actually show they like something, then that's the addition that you build.
Yeah. Because obviously, with the hotel, they're already working on something so that you're going from a star base to a planet kind of thing. And there's numerous ways that they could do that. You could have had a land that was only accessible by a ride.
That's true.
To make it seem okay, well, this is, you go in through Tatooine and that's how you get to Batu, or you go in through Batu and that's how you get to Tatooine or whatever, to going between the two, you could have made like it was an actual ride or a trip or something like that to keep the illusion up.
That is true. There are things they could have done from an immersive perspective, but who knows? Maybe down the road, maybe they'll eventually. We know there'll be some changes at some point when they have money again down the road. Ain't happening anytime soon.
Yeah. No, that's. I like listening to the Disney podcast where they talk about all the things that Disney had planned in the past and then just completely canceled out because and then all of a sudden the market took a tumble, or you know, this is the same time that 9/11 happened and nobody was flying, and all of a sudden they had to contract all their plans and blah 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 blah. And it's happened so many times to Disney that like if they never had any downturns, like it's staggering to think of like how much bigger everything would be now.
This is true, but this is like the biggest downturn ever.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one.
It's sizable, yes.
Yeah. Although they bought land within like the past month.
I don't, was it the past month? I thought it was a little further. You're right. Maybe it was the past month. It's hard to keep track of time because it's kind of on one level time as usual just speeds by, but because of the horrible mess we've been in, everything just seems to drag on indefinitely. So you're right. It may have only been like at the end of March or somewhere in March, but it seems like it was eons ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It to me from now, the point that we are at now to when the quarantine started is a month, and I refuse to give it any more time than that.
even in July when you have like the Rip Van Winkle beard to the ground, I know it's already been a month.
Quarantarge. It's like March, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, just looking over some of these guidelines that they've announced. I mean, I get it. I get the whole, reason for announcing these things, but some of them just seem like so, like, I don't know. Well, I mean, the most ridiculous one to me is the 6 feet apart online for the rides.
I'm not going to say it's not good from a spacing perspective that at least for some rides that they can't do it, but that's a lot of work. That's a lot of manpower. Even if you're putting something down that is you can remove it relatively easily down the road. That's a lot of work. And obviously for some rides it's easier to do. It's easier to do than others. I mean, you look at like the Haunted Mansion. That's pretty much unless they're gonna like mark out the elevator room just and have enough people. I'd like put specific places to stand 6 feet apart, so you know the number of people that be in the room at that time. So you can count people, which you could, I guess, theoretically you could do that if you wanted to keep them in a closed space, but still be 6 feet apart for a short period of time. Other than that, they'd have to circumvent the elevator room, which is a cool part of the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the thing that I find interesting, and maybe let's see. Yeah, we probably we can go through these, some of these. Let's see. I got the list. Let me go through it pretty quickly. For the resort hotels, the guidelines mind you, they have all these different phases. Like even for like park attendants, like phase 1, the parks are only supposed to be like open to 50%. Which may not be a big issue because people may not be comfortable flocking back to them immediately. So maybe capping it at 50% may not be a big deal. And phase 2, I think, is 75 as you start amping up and ramping everything back to normal. But like the resort hotels guidelines, phase 1 is like housekeeping services to be limited. To allow for minimal guest and employee exposure, mobile check-in, which I will point to because first of all, for the last umpteen years I've been going to Disney World. I've actually used online check-in, early check-in, and I don't think the website was letting me do that like about a few weeks ago. The regular, not the app, but the website, because I don't think it was even letting you make a payment at that point if you wanted to. But I noticed on the app and this is probably the reason why they did this, that last weekend, because I had got the card that I have on file at Disney, I wanted to update it. So that was the reason why I was looking for a place to do that, and I didn't seem to find it on the website. But I played around with the app for the hell of it over the weekend, and it let me continue with the early check-in. So even though I don't have a flight yet, because I still don't really know if I'm going in December, there's a lot of X factors to this. But I know it would be I think you and I talked about it, it'd be a really early morning flight. So I just So you got to pick what time you're going to check in. You think you're going to be at the hotel, so like I said, 10:30 and stuff like that, and then put the new card on file. But now because of this, the fact that obviously that's going to be one of the key things they're going to be trying to do to make sure people aren't going to be waiting in the lobby, waiting to check in, is be promoting mobile check-ins. So that's probably why they started rolling that out, which probably is also a good sign that they knew that they were starting to get closer to, at least they could see some light at the end of the tunnel where they could open up. Housekeeping services are only clean upon request or when guests depart. Employees any employee that can still work from home, pretty much, if they're not playing a critical role, I guess, in day-to-day serving guest roles, they can still work from home. Only deliver room service to the guest door. It's probably like they do one knock and run. Provide self-parking. That's some people prefer that anyway than to park their own car anyway, but that's not a huge deal. Promote social distancing for all guests and staff, which is going to be tricky, especially like in a club level and thing at a hotel. It's going to be, you're going to limit the number of people. There are things I like the recommended touchless sanitizer at entry. There's nothing wrong with that. That's something they probably can keep indefinitely, depending on where they do that. Increase cleaning services, additional sanitation services through cleaning companies, and they still encourage people who are over 65 to stay home for phases 1 and 2. The mandates are interesting. All employees required to wear a face mask, hand sanitizer to be in plain visible sight. Temperature checks these are for employees. For staff prior to shift, anything above 100.4, you're screwed. Depending on, unless you really don't want to go to work, then you're not. All employees with flu-like symptoms advised to stay home. Front desk to sanitize themselves on a regular basis. Consistent cleaning of all guest areas. Front desk to utilize sneeze guards. Remove all service item in guest rooms to include glassware, coffee cups, etc. I don't know about that one. Mini bars not to be stocked. Do not offer self-food services. That I could kind of see. Space pool furniture to distancing guidelines. Pool gates and pool chairs to be sanitized regularly. Door handles, elevator buttons, and railings to be sanitized regularly. Remove all coffee makers from guest rooms. That's probably not going to go over big for some people. Remove all guest collateral items except for those that are single use. Sanitize guest keys before and after each use, which for Disney won't be as big a deal because most people use the magic bands anyway these days, I think. Sanitize belt carts after each use. That makes sense. And no conferences for phase 1 and 2.
Ooh, I didn't even realize that.
Which actually will be quite interesting. Well, that won't theoretically affect me anyway, because by December they wouldn't be, barring a rollback, they wouldn't be in phase 2. Because I'm thinking I'm at the Grand Destino again at Coronado Springs, so that would actually, if it still was that rule, then obviously Coronado Springs would have a lot less people to begin with, because theme parks, which are more interesting, tape markings of 6 feet apart in ride attraction queues, staff to regularly wipe down surfaces at random. That is basically, what to me that just means when you have the time to do it, you do it. Because the reality is, when you think of a ride like Buzz Lightyear and things like that, unless you're going to have like this sanitizing version of like Rain-X at a car wash where all these vehicles can go just go and roll through them, there's no way you can clean those vehicles after everybody's in them, or else forget it. You're gonna have those lines 6 feet apart going all the way back to Main Street, USA, if you're gonna be doing that. It's just not
not for nothing, but I mean, like, if you're sanitizing your hands and, or washing your hands, which is better, if you're wearing a mask and, and you're not, like, touching your face, then whether or not, like, the ride has been wiped down isn't really going to make much of a difference.
No, that's true. It's definitely not the end of the world. I'm only kidding. I don't think that's I think it's more realistic, and I like that, than the idea that, they're going to, but some of the rumors we heard that they were going to, we're going to, sanitize, like every time a cart or every time something empties out is going to be sanitized. It's like, you can't do that. I mean,
no,
you just can't do that. So phase 1 and 2, same thing. Staff who are 65 or older are encouraged to stay home. The interesting thing, again, employees required to wear face masks, the hand sanitizer at each ticketing entry and turnstile, touchless hand sanitizer at each ride, attraction, entry, and exit. Some of these things are probably going to stick around because it's a good idea. So those are 2 examples. That's probably those will stick around. More temperature checks for staff employees. Wipe down all railings and surface regularly. Phase 1, 50% capacity. Phase 2, 75% capacity. And we'll do the restaurant real quick. Paper disposable menus. Encourage takeout online orders. Touchless sanitizer at entry. Same thing about the people over 65. Hand sanitizer at every table. Hand sanitizer at entry to be in plain visible sight. Continuing the employees' face masks, the temperature, flu-like symptoms, stay home. Doors to be wiped regularly. All staff behind counters must wear gloves except for bartenders. Bartenders to sanitize hands after making each drink order. They're gonna have some dry hands, man.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah, it is.
Sanitize after making each drink order.
Seated tables to be 6 feet apart, and sticking with the capacity. Restaurant and bar capacity to be at 50% when they start, 75% in phase 2. Which is interesting because even before they closed restaurants here, not that we had much of a chance before El Duce Cuomo decided to shut the whole state down like a week later, but the restaurants were already cutting down to 50% capacity, like just general restaurants, and it's to space people out. So that makes sense that they're going to start with that. What's interesting about this, of course, some of the stuff you and I kidded about before, we looked at this before I shared the list with you, that the biggest thing we've been hearing for room about when it comes, because this is basically all about employees. It's not about the guests yet, and the biggest thing we've been hearing for almost like a month now is the idea that, they're going to start checking people's temperatures before they let them into the park, which, number one, there's so many problems with that across the board that the fact that people seem willing to just readily accept it it's this whole giving away of your freedom. I mean, we know we did it after 9/11 for a certain extent, even though 9/11, I think, in the big picture, 9/11 was a short-lived event, but the fear this could happen again was much more realistic based on what we're dealing with now with COVID-19, which is not killing a lot of people, despite you would think the sky was falling, but per capita, the fatality rate for this is very, very small. And the recovery rate is extremely high. But the fact that I don't want somebody taking my temperature walk. If I want to volunteer and have my temperature taken, laser scan, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Laser, rectal, I don't care. I don't want them doing it. Because, I mean, first of all, number one, there's 8,000 reasons why you could have a temperature which have nothing to do with COVID-19. Which is the only reason why you're doing it now is because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Number two, you could have COVID-19 and be asymptomatic across the board. You could have it and just not develop the symptoms yet. If you're taking public transportation to get there, you've already technically exposed whoever you're with, including being funneled into the part of the park where they're taking your temperature. You already could potentially have infected a whole bunch of people. And what are you going to do if my temperature is 100.5? You're telling me I'm not going to be able to come into this park. So the thousands of dollars and all the time that I've spent getting here and waiting for this vacation, you're going to tell me, we can't let you in. We can't let you in.
Well, I mean, knowing Disney, like, even if you are not allowed in the park, they'll figure a way to make it up to you in terms of, like, either money or, guest experience or whatever, like letting you back in with, like, some kind of, like, special privileges or whatever after you're well again. I like that part. I don't see it as that big of a deal, only because like honestly, given what the situation is and the fear, like the fact that there's a cutoff for 104 fever, like, I mean, I don't really
100.4.
Yeah. I don't really want to be, around people with 100.4, degree fever to begin with. And I mean, and the other thing is, like, if, like, 100 degrees 0.4 is pretty high in terms of, like, if you have a low-grade fever, then you're going to be, like, 99, 100, 102, whatever, something like that. Like, and for one thing, like, you're going to be contagious. So, like, you're going to Disney and, you're thinking it's like, okay, well, I'm sick, but I paid all this money, so I'm going to go anyway. But I mean, invariably, whether or not you have COVID or, anything else, literally anything else, the odds that you're going to get somebody else, at the very least, sick, is decently high. I mean, how many people go to Disney and come home, and get sick a day or two later?
Right,
I mean,
but that, to me, that's kind of the point, because even without any of this, the odds were always pretty high when you go to some place, especially Disney World, and because of how big a tourist attraction that is from all around the world. I mean, that is a much bigger, as we know, Disney World is much bigger from a tourist perspective and from an international tourism perspective than Disneyland. Mm-hmm. Not just because Disneyland is a rinky-dinky little thing park-wise size, but just the location of Disney World is much more appealing, like for Europe and things like that. It's much closer. When you go to Disney World anytime, I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday, that if I go back as an adult and look at the number of times I've gone to Disney World, especially if you consider the times that you haven't really gotten sick, but maybe for a day or two you felt like you were on the cusp of getting sick, that you felt lousy one day, but maybe you were able to shake it off and it never got worse. Like you started getting, like your throat bothered you, or you're starting to get that sick kind of tired, but it never became anything. If I go back and I look at that, probably close to 50% of the time I've gone to Florida at one point or another, I've had that happen to me. It's that fact to me. It's so there's a large. The problem to me is what happened. I mean, yeah, if you're sick to start with, I understand you're not wanting to lose the money. I mean, if you've been looking forward to it, and it's the money, I understand that. But I'm looking at it more from the perspective of what if I get sick while I'm there? Basically, if I got sick potentially because somebody else got me sick, not because of COVID or whatever. But now I got basically sick on your property, and not necessarily. You could have got sick on the plane, but you know what I mean. It's like I got sick on this vacation, and now I can't even enjoy myself because you're forcing me to quarantine, and that's what it would be, because you wouldn't be if they're not going to let you to the parks, they're not going to let you into the restaurants. Probably they're probably going to do the same kind of crap, and that means you wouldn't be able to go to the club level either if you happen to have a club level room at a hotel. So basically, you're going to literally be quarantined. Yes, you might be able to go to the gift shops because they're probably not going to be that anal to check your temperature. But other than that, you're going to be stuck in your hotel room. And depending on how long you've been, I get what you're saying. I understand it. But the one good thing from this whole mess is it might make people because we all know and we've all been around people who have been sick, whether we're at a restaurant, whether we're at the movies, whether we're just out shopping. It's like, this jerk should not be out. It's like they sound horrible. They look, it's like, so the one good thing that could come from this is people might be a little bit less selfish on that level, realizing that, hey, if I'm sick, depending on, I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to, put myself in a public situation where I can get other people sick. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying there's a chance.
Well, I mean, to go hand in hand with that, I think that we as a society should probably be moving in a direction where, we don't penalize the people that are actually taking themselves out of the general circulation, because they are sick. If somebody is doing the right thing and not, it's like, okay, well, in the middle of my vacation at Disney, all of a sudden I spike 102 fever or whatever like that, then, well, for one thing, going into Disney World with 102 fever, that's just a bad idea. I mean,
especially if it's the summer or early fall when it's hot as hell down there.
yeah. I mean, aside from the heat and everything like that, you're gonna go on a ride and all of a sudden start hallucinating and totally freak out. Ariel's grotto is gonna take on a whole new world to you. But
you dive out of the boat and it's a small world. All these little people are singing at me.
Well, that actually explains a lot. It's a small world. But yeah, I mean, okay, so you do the right thing and actually, okay, listen, I'm not gonna go because I am sick and I don't want to infect other people. There should be a system in place where that person isn't okay, well, now you're just screwed out of having fun on your vacation. It's okay, well, the next time you come back, we're going to load you up with fast passes, and we're going to, get you whatever reservations you want, and you're going to get some kind of like concierge level service. Disney is very good at improving, whatever service or situation you have. If you are stuck in quarantine, then you can bet that like any meal that you want from any restaurant is going to be free, and it's going to be at your door when you want it. They're going to have like the movie channels unlocked, every single movie channel for you, so that you can, enjoy it, and maybe give, the rest of your party, if they're well, extra fast passes so that they can enjoy it if they're quarantining away from you. Like stuff like that. It's not out of the realms of possibility if they want to, enact that check. But like you said, having a temperature is, I think only like 30 to 50% of people that have it or less actually have the temperature like that. That's over 100.4.
Right.
So the thing that's funny to me is that employees that have a temperature of over 100.4, can't work. They can't go there. It's like, okay, well, I mean, for one thing, like common sense, if you have a fever, if you're an employee of Disney and you have a fever, you shouldn't be working, and why is 100.4 this magic cutoff? Like if you're 99.8, like you still have a fever, you probably shouldn't be working making people's food at Disney World.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The thing, and don't get me wrong, I mean I understand. I mean, it's just that they're using the temperature as this arbitrary thing, as the one thing that you're going to stand, and that's just what bothers me, because they're clearly doing it because of COVID. But as we know, not everybody has all symptoms anyway, and you could be completely asymptomatic and just be a carrier, and it doesn't mean, and just because you don't have a temperature doesn't mean that, everything's hunky-dory. And just like if you do have a temperature, it does not necessarily mean you're going to contaminate the whole world with whatever the hell you have. So I understand it, but it's like, because we were talking about this too, completely unrelated, even though it might come up on what we're talking about, like some of the things we're doing under quarantine more. The idea that rewatching Revenge of the Sith, and the line of this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. It's like, this is how liberty dies, with laser temperature scans. It's like, as people are so, it never ceases to amaze me how willing people are to go along with stuff, and that's what's really scary, especially when we look back at this stuff, the way people have been so willing to just, we're gonna give this up, we're gonna give this up, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah. I listen. And the same thing with the 6 feet thing. They already know that this thing can travel much farther than 6 feet.
If somebody turns to you in your direction and sneezes, the fact that you're 6 feet away, especially if you're not covered, if you don't have a face mask, which of course the things we really have to wait for is the mandated or the recommendation for what the guests are going to have to do, because that's going to be the interesting part. That
right there, like I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if people are wearing masks, if everybody's wearing a mask, then the 6 feet thing is irrelevant. And the way that Disney works is like, okay, well, you're Disney World, and you can make freaking anything happen. Like, why aren't you supplying masks? And the way that Disney works is like, okay, we're going to supply a mask, to everybody that buys a ticket or whatever like that. And it's going to be a simple cloth mask, with a Mickey icon, on the front of it or whatever like that. And it's going to come in like, 5 basic colors. But if you want a picture of your favorite character, you can go into the gift shop, and for $15 buy, a upgraded super, mask or whatever like that, so that way, and then you mandate that everybody has to wear the mask while they're in the park, and you can figure something out with the restaurants so that maybe you have like a plexiglass thing around each table and booth, so that way people will take off the masks when they're in the booth so they can eat, and then you sanitize that after they leave with some sort of automated system. I mean, like, these are all systems that you could put in place if you really wanted to, go hard with all this stuff. But I mean, like, then if you're doing mandatory masks for everybody, then the 6 feet thing is basically, irrelevant, and everybody could do whatever.
That is
and
true.
then also, the other thing is, like, if even then, if you have a 99-degree fever or whatever like that, 99.8 or whatever, and you're just below that 100.4 stupid, irrelevant number, like, at least the mask is going to, if everybody's wearing the mask, then it's going to cut down on your, chances of infecting somebody else.
That is true. I think the masks, because as you were saying it, like right before you started saying it, I was already thinking the same thing. The idea that when you check into your room, there'll be like a sealed package of masks, like for number of people, for however number of people are in your party, the sealed packages for like number of one mask for each day or whatever, or what. And yes, you can, especially if they're like double layered cloth or something. Yeah, then they can definitely sell more of those, because then you can always wash them and reuse them. So that's
or if they're taking out the coffee makers, they can install mask sanitizers instead.
Have a little UV chamber where you put everything in.
That's it.
Throw your stuff in. They will figure out something. I know there was something I was related to Disney about what they're going to do with the buffets. That I think it was something more along the idea that I'm guessing that basically you wouldn't be going up and getting your own food, but you'd be, I think, picking out what you wanted, which would be hard. Yeah. But I guess depending on the kind of menu that they had, I mean, or I'm not sure how they could do it, because you almost have to see this. If you're not familiar with the restaurant, you'd have to see the kind of stuff that they have.
Yeah.
But I'm not. But many people are worried about the buffets because of the fact that they think that those are the ones, which makes sense, are going to be the hardest ones to reopen as in a semblance of what they used to be, because of buffets at their best is not the sanitary conditions are shaky with the sneeze guard and everything else.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So that's going to be, which sucks, because I really like going to Boma over at Animal Kingdom Lodge. So that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really that and like some of like the breakfast options, or the other breakfast options.
And the character meet and greets, they're probably all going to be gone for foreseeable future, because you don't want everybody touching the same character who's going to be touching all these people, the next group of people too. So.
Well, I don't know about that, because if you've got the costume on, then the guy in the costume is basically protected. I don't know about that one.
I don't know. That's good. That's gonna be tough though. But there's a lot of interaction though. There's a lot of, when you do the character meet and greets, a lot of hands and arms going on you and going around you and things like that. So all you need is one person to touch you, and then the next person touches you. You're not going to get it if you're in the suit, but you could be the walking carrier throughout Epcot, giving it to like 30 people, 40, 50, 60 people that day. If that's the way we're going to live, which hopefully we won't for long. But
yeah.
Cool.
Well, okay. Well, that's.
Segment one is down. Let's move on to happier news.
Oh, the saddest place on earth.
Yes.
Did you see the link that I sent you?
Yes, I opened it.
So I got an email today that this thing had dropped, and I had seen the Miles Morales from them recently, and the Miles Morales is definitely cool. Referring to Into the Spider-Verse, these are Sideshow 6-scale figures by Hot Toys. Now, Hot Toys, they have traditionally, I'm most impressed when it's based off of a movie character. they've made some, like, not a lot of stuff actually, but they do make some stuff occasionally that's just like something that they just kind of whip up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the super, like a random superhero that's not based on a movie, and it's just some kind of random heroic likeness. At which point, it's like, okay, well, okay, it's cool, it looks heroic, but it's not actually based on anything. But I mean, when you have something that's based on an actor like, Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, and it looks exactly like Paul Rudd, well, that's really impressive. Well, now they're making 6-scale figures for Into the Spider-Verse, and like I said, first you had Miles Morales, and Miles is good, but I feel like his face is maybe a little too cartoony as compared to what we have just found out about, and that would be the Spider-Gwen. And this one looks like, like dead on accuracy to the movie character. They got the hair that was partially shaved on one side because Miles glued his hand to her head.
Yeah.
But you got the costume, you got an alternate head with the mask and the hood, and then the actual her face without the mask on, that likeness. The facial likeness it's insane. I'm amazed at what they've come up with on this one. And then the accessory that this comes with, it comes with a few accessories. I think she's got like a physics textbook, a cell phone, and I don't know, like a base and a web, I want to say. I was looking before, but obviously the most impressive of the accessories that it comes with is a 6-scale Spider-Ham figurine.
Yeah, that is true. I look at this and it's like, I still like the fact that it's like at least very partially based on trying to design her like Haley Steinfeld a little bit because of the fact that she did the voice, but it's also so. If you go back to classic Gwen Stacy, it's just not very Gwen Stacy like.
Oh no, it's definitely not like classic Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, freckly. She's freckly, and I like the haircut. I'm a sucker for shaved sides. But she, her hair is obviously browner than, it's more like dirty blonde than blonde. So, but I did that was one of my favorite parts of that movie, which I still have only watched one time. It's a cool it is a very nice figure though.
Accessory wise, it comes with a base, a ton of hands, all the different hands. I think it's like 10 different hands.
Yes.
She's got a couple of web lines and like a web blast type accessory. You've got a compact, like a mirror compact. Was that some kind of technological device in the movie? I can't remember.
I can't honestly remember that either. It's been a while.
She's got her cell phone, the physics book, and the she has like 4 different types of eyes for the mask, for the actual the costumed head, in different states of like openness or closedness. So, and the Spider-Ham is in the pose where he's like, it's like something like, I just came out of the bathroom. That's why my hands are wet. My son likes to do that quote. Yeah, no, I was incredibly impressed by this piece. It's $255, which you're paying for that Spider-Ham.
Yes, you are.
But I mean, it's not that far off from a lot of the other figures. Yeah, I mean the Miles Morales figure, which there's a link at the bottom if you want to click over to that one. The actual Spider-Man costume that he has from like I think that's the end of the movie, is it's a really cool suit that they came up with, and he comes with like a full set of like full alternate outfit with the Miles Morales outfit. Now, I mean, when you consider like all that you're getting here, you're basically getting two figures in one. In that you have the Miles Morales and the Spider-Man costume, but that's only $267. So, man, you really get a ton of accessories. But yeah, the face is definitely it's slightly more cartoony, and I don't know, almost more plasticky than the Gwen figure.
I can see that. I do see that. They seem to be playing Gwen up to be a little more serious.
Yeah.
Or did a more serious interpretation of Gwen than they tried to do of Miles Morales.
I wonder if they were supposed to look like that in the movie, like as a stylistic choice because they're from different universes.
That's a possibility. That's a good.
Could be. Great movie, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Was there anything that you wanted to discuss off of the sideshow links?
It's kind of funny you said that because I somehow gravitated back to that Captain America I never bought, which I'm still not going to buy, but I can't justify $274 on a figure, as awesome as it is. And Lord knows, every time I do think of it, every time I watch Endgame on Disney Plus, I'm thinking, oh, this would be cool to have. But I'm also pretty happy with that pop figure I have too.
It's considerably less money.
Yeah, it's considerably less money. You can make a case less accurate too, since he's got the lightning coming off of him and the shield is broken when he really was doing most of his heavy hammer work and the lightning work when the shield was still intact. But nonetheless. Let's see. Now for Sideshow, I don't think so. I'm just trying to think something else. I've been looking at. Did you see the new Green Lantern power battery thing that they have?
On Sideshow?
No, it's not on Sideshow. Actually, it's not even on Big Bad Toy Store yet. I'm gonna get the link from you because it's.
Oh, are you talking about the one from Merchoid?
Is that the Evil's Might one? I think that.
Let's see.
It's like 60 something bucks because I know Chad pre-ordered it.
Oh, he did. He finally did.
Yeah, let's see if I can. I should have just looked for Green Lantern. That would have been easier than.
Yes, Seeking Out Evil prop.
That's it. Yes, that's it. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, they were serving me this ad like the day that it the day that it started selling. I thought that I had never even heard of Merchoid at that point, but yeah, I mean for that price, $60.99, and it lights up, and it seems like a pretty decent size too.
Yeah, it's about it's about 12. It's 12 inches tall, and it's 10.5 inches wide. It's actually only $44.99 on Entertainment Earth.
No way.
Yeah. Yep.
Jeez.
Yep. That's where Chad ended up. Yeah. I think he saw the link. I think you did, but he looked at Entertainment Earth, so he pre-ordered it on Entertainment Earth, and we'll have to see if Big Bad gets it, whether they have a better price. So. But it is interesting that it can be powered by USB or by three AA batteries.
Yeah, that's really cool. Damn.
It doesn't have that great that great ring light up feature though, but still for the price.
Yeah. I mean that was always a great feature, but I mean for the amount of money that you're saving. That's a tremendous amount of money in savings.
Yes, absolutely. And I was and comparing it like to the Kyle battery, the Kyle mini battery doesn't have the ring light up feature either. It just has a simple on and off switch. But it also runs on button batteries. It runs on watch batteries, which is why I've never had to replace batteries in that thing since I got it so far. I don't think so. There's a slim chance I did, but I don't think so because I don't use it that often.
Now, do they say what this one's made out of?
Let's see what it says. I doubt on Entertainment Earth it's going to say it, because Entertainment Earth, hold on, let's look at the specifications. Does it say? No. A lot of the things. Good.
Here it is. It's made from metal forged on Oa.
Oh, thanks for these. Oh, they're so clever.
No, I just made that up.
That would be more clever than they'll probably say, because they tell us nothing. There's got to be something.
Well, that is true. It does have to be something.
Yes. that definitely is. It's always something.
Yeah, even looking on the Merchoid site, I don't see any. There's no specifications at all. So maybe plastic?
It could be. I mean, for the price. I mean, considering when you think about it, you go back and look at the last wave of batteries they had. They weren't metal either. So
yeah.
I'm trying to look if it's.
Well, wait. Were any of them metal?
Yeah, the original ones were, I think. Or porcelain. No, well, no, they were porcelain, right?
They were cold cast ceramic, I believe.
They just looked more metallic. That was the finish. Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah. Which on some of them ended up kind of crackling up and flaking off. I know that was a major problem with the Aben Sur and the Alan Scott batteries.
Luckily, I only had the Hal Jordan. I picked the winner of those original batteries. I have the Hal Jordan one, and then I have the Sinestro and the Red Lantern battery from that. I have those in the original, when they were just JLA trophy room props or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I had the original Green Lantern one, and then I picked up the Sinestro one, and honestly, I wasn't really feeling the Sinestro one. I ended up selling that one, and I don't regret that at all. But I did end up finding the Alan Scott battery for, I think I found it. I got it really cheap. I want to say $150. It was on a free comic book day sale years ago, and it had very little of the cracking in the paint. But I mean, for that particular battery, that doesn't really look that bad.
Right.
It's supposed to be a really old style lantern anyway, so that's just kind of making it look more authentic, if anything else.
I mean, there was part of the old Sinestro. Part of me liked the old Sinestro battery, even though it obviously was much heavier in that gold look. It was much more of that bright yellow look than.
Yeah.
And so they kind of went the really bright yellow classic look, as opposed to a deeper, richer gold like color. So at least the newer battery, they kind of toned it down. It was a deeper yellow, and I think that kind of in a way looked more like what the actual Sinestro core colors tended to be. But I guess it also depends who colored them. We know sometimes the uniforms were pretty bright yellow too. So it's just too bad they never finished those, and they never did the indigo.
Yeah.
One way or the other, they should have done the indigo just to complete the set, and that's so ridiculous that they never did that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, even if they just made an indigo regular one,
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, they had the two choices. You could have made the indigo battery, which would be like all the others, which would be technically inaccurate, but it would match. Or they could have done the staff, which would have been accurate, but it wouldn't have matched. So, but they should have done something instead of just. I understand why they kicked the can down the road. They said we're going to do this one last. I totally get that, but to not do it was ridiculous. It's like they should have finished the line.
Well, I don't know, because I get what you're saying, because obviously, you're putting in that much money. It's come on, let me let me get some completion on this set here, please. I mean, they did white and black. You did all the colors and white and black and not indigo. Just kind of, it's very ridiculous. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, since it is just a staff, that's literally the easiest one to make yourself.
Well, that's true. That is true. And it was would have been the hardest one, not because it would be hard necessarily to design it, but it would be the most different one for them to work on, because clearly all they did with all the other cores was just use the same battery, just change the color.
Yeah.
It's not like they even put the symbol on the actual. I mean, they did. I think they still put the symbol on the top, but they didn't put the symbol like on the which was good, that they wiped that out. They didn't put the symbol on the face of the battery like they did with like the original the Hal Jordan one, where the ring slot was. They actually like they made a ring slot and they put the logo or something. That I just think that they should have just finished it and. I mean, technically speaking, the Black Lantern, except for when it showed up in, what was that, Brightest Day, that they had the black solo lantern, when like with Deathstorm or somebody had a Black Lantern. Other than that, there was no individual black power battery either. It was only the central power battery. So
yeah,
they could have done something, but it's one of those things that it did make me, looking at the battery props, it did kind of make me lament that, yeah. What could have been.
But in any case, yeah, $45 is a really awesome price for that.
Yes.
I wonder if they'll do more.
Hopefully. I mean, I would consider getting depending on if they keep continuing it, that I would. But I'm not going to be buying the whole set. I'm not going to get burned again. That's the only reason I have that Sapphire battery retroactively, was because I think, if I don't get this when they complete the set, that's going to be the only one I don't have, because I let it go by. So mind you, I got it as a gift. I didn't buy it myself. But still, the point was, I aimed for. I said, give me that, because the fact that I didn't want to be left holding the bag, since that was the only one I didn't get on my own. I chose not to order because I don't care about the Star Sapphires. But for a completed set, you would like to have them all. It would look cool if you wanted to display them all together. Yeah. But no.
I mean, it would have been cool if they, the violet one would have been cool if they actually made it like elongated or crystal-like,
right?
Or
if it was different.
If any way accurate at all.
Right, just like the Sinestro battery. At least one of the like Sinestro's original battery or whatever, it was kind of like a different shape. Yeah, it would be nice if they had some individual, or like we talked about with the Lorfleeze one, if like it had his name like scratched in the bottom of the battery, since he made that joke. That it's mine because like he's look my name's my name's underneath or whatever. That would have been like a cool little touch. And they did obviously some customizing, because the Red Lantern battery is different. It's round on top. Round on top, and it's got the symbol cut into the top of the battery. So that one was. But for the most part, the actual shapes and the handles were exactly the same, except for the Red Lantern battery.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure that because the red one, they already had made a red battery, they knew that there was more interest there to support, making it slightly different than all the rest. But
that's true.
As you get further down the color wheel, you get farther and farther away from selling larger numbers. So, interestingly, also on this Entertainment Earth for Lantern stuff, I see they have something that I picked up recently, and that was actually, no, I didn't pick this up recently. The DC Retro Superpowers Series 3 Green Lantern 8-inch action figure. Do you remember this?
Let's see. I'm trying to find it on your list of things. I'm back on Entertainment Earth. I have to backtrack. Oh, the super. Did you say you didn't say the super? Yeah, the Superpowers. Is that what you said? The retro?
Yes. Yeah.
I think I do remember seeing it. Yes.
Yeah. No, I guess I technically had a different version of this one, because I'm just realizing this is the this is the DC Retro, and what I had was the World's Greatest Heroes or something like that. Basically, it's Mego style Green Lanterns. They never made a Mego Green Lantern back in the day, but they put out like a couple of Green Lantern ones and different DC ones. I think it was Mattel who did it, and it might have been through mail order. Like, I want to say 15 years ago, if that sounds familiar at all. And they did like Hal Jordan with like Shazam and like two other characters, maybe I don't remember. But then they did another wave of just Green Lanterns, and you had Kyle, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, and Sinestro. And, you know, like, they're all, like, in that same, same size as Megos, I'm sorry, Migos.
I wasn't going to say anything. I'm just rolling with it. But
I know, yeah. I'm like, wait a second. I'm saying this wrong again. But yeah, they, you know, same body size and style and everything, and same type of clothing, but you know, just made, you know, much later for different characters. So recently, I don't even know why. I think it was maybe because my wife got a sewing machine, but I thought to myself, it's like, ooh, sewing machine. Now I can make custom Mego figures. And I have no idea why I thought that, because it's not like I was like, oh man, you know what I can really go for? A custom Mego figure. It was literally because it's like, well, I guess since we have the sewing machine now, makes sense to do that. But I'm like, okay, well, you know, let's see what, you know, some people have come up with. And so I started, you know, doing searches and whatnot, and, you know, going down that kind of rabbit hole. I found like there's a website, and this might actually be like the world's greatest, you know, action figures or something to that effect. And they sell all of these parts that you can use to customize, you know, characters. So, you know, like slowly I've been accumulating parts here and there. I have like, you know, the bodies and the heads and all the parts, and I just have to sew the costume together to make a Jessica Cruz Mego figure. And like, you know, once I did that, then like, you know, like I just happened to be going through my closet, and I realized that like 15 years ago when they came out, I had gotten the Hal Jordan. And it's like, you know, like that's a pretty interesting coincidence, like that I completely forgot that I had this thing. But now that I have like the Jessica Cruz, okay, well now I'm going to have a Hal Jordan to go with it. The figure styles, like the world's greatest compared to the Mattel, you know, retro figures that they did. The Mattel figures are like, the legs are like so freaking wobbly. Like, I mean, like the head sculpts are great, and the clothing is all great. The boots, all that stuff is phenomenal. But like the actual bodies for any sort of articulation, like, I mean, it might as well be a rag doll. Like, these things will only stand up if you are like balancing them in such a precarious way that, you know, like, it's like, okay, well, this part of his body wants to kind of like fall forward, but the rest of his body wants to lean backwards. So it's not a good pose, but he does stand. But yeah, so that's what I've been, you know, collecting lately. Mego Green Lanterns. And then they have like, you know, since they have all these different parts, like you know, one of the things that I was doing, you know, during quarantine, just as like almost like just a mental exercise, was going through and looking at all the parts and saying, ooh, who could I build? You know, who else could I build? And you know, you see it's like, oh, well, they have this gray jumpsuit, and they've got, you know, like the white full body spandex, and they've got green gloves, and they've got green capes. Ooh, I could make a Hal Jordan Spectre Mego figure, you know, and things like that. And it's, you know, it'd be pretty easy to make an Alan Scott figure, but yeah, that's one thing I've been up to lately.
Surviving quarantine as best you can. I've been I've been finishing up the Clone Wars, like you and I talked. We talked about on the State of the Green Lantern episode.
Yes.
Only 2 more episodes to go, and now it seems, even though I could be jinxing it, at least the fact that if you're gonna have a so-so final season, at least end it strong, because that's all people are going to remember at this point. This is like it's literally the opposite of Game of Thrones. It's like this arc is so good so far, and regardless of the fact that, like many people, I think the first 8 episodes were essentially a waste of time. But if the last 2 episodes are as good as the first of the 2. Yeah, the first of these final 4 episodes have been. The first 2 of them. If the final 2 are as good, then yeah, that's all people are going to remember. And that's going out on such a high note, in the way they are seamlessly so far just navigating that road between Revenge of the Sith and tying that in with everything that's going on Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, definitely. I've really been enjoying that, and it's kind of the one thing that not that she hasn't tried. Going back to Kathleen Kennedy for a moment, that the one thing Kathleen Kennedy did not do is, like, in one fell swoop, was completely destroy that brand. It took her at least a couple of years to do a serious damage to it. And mind you, it's a complete backhanded compliment, because there also was like about 40 years of goodwill built up before things started going into the toilet. But my God, when we go back to what Benioff and Weiss did to Game of Thrones in the course of an episode and a half, they almost literally took something that was the most popular TV show on the planet and a pop cultural phenomenon, and they made it irrelevant in the course of an episode and a half, where like almost everybody just completely lost interest in that show. And it's scary, because there's so much. It's very little hyperbole. It's really true that it's like this was so big, and like just because of what they did in the final episode and a half, it's like everybody thought, my God, what a waste of time. We've wasted like 10 years of our 8 seasons, like 10 years of our lives in the show, pretty much. And it's like, this is what you give us? Really? This is what we've been waiting for? Things that don't make sense and crapping on these characters. And so I think of that. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm going down this road, is because I thought, and they actually been playing some of this, because Lord knows they have nothing else to play. But like on ESPN, they actually were playing some Super Bowl highlight films, which they used to do all the time before there was NFL Network. And one of my favorite, and I don't remember which Super Bowl highlight film it was from, but it was back when they had the great John Facenda doing the voice of NFL films. And like paraphrasing, it was basically anyone who said one bad game could not ruin a great season never lost a Super Bowl. And I think of that related to Game of Thrones. It's like whoever said one bad season or 2 bad episodes can't ruin a great show never watched Game of Thrones. But yeah, so it was like about a year ago at this time, when that was, we were into it. It's like, look where we are now, man. But at least it's kind of funny, because the way everything's slated to end, that Clone Wars will end on May 4th. On Star Wars
Really?
Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it'll be actually no, that's not really accurate. It'll come out the week of, but it won't be, because May 1st is this week. May 1st is this week. So it'll come out the week of.
You son of a bitch! You lied to me.
Well, I'm trying to check the date. May 4th is.
That's a Monday.
Yeah, May 4th is a Monday. So unless they're going to release it early, that won't be true. But it's coming out the same week that they're getting Rise of Skywalker. But you probably can. It's probably sad but true. But more people are probably going to be interested in the last episode of the Clone Wars right now.
Yeah.
But it's. Yeah, I don't know. So I've been watching a lot of stuff. I've been enjoying Pluto TV on my Fire Stick tremendously. as we speak in the other room for the second time in the last 24 hours, they've been doing the Friday the 13th marathon. That's one of the things I love about Pluto TV. When they have a bunch of movies that are all like in the same series, is that if you flip it on and it says, oh, Friday the 13th Part 2 is on, it's like, you know what's coming next. Because they rarely will play these movies in a vacuum. But once you know they have them all, it's like, because they did this with Saw. They had this with, and I thought of you when they did it. That when I first got my Fire Stick and got it hooked up, and I installed the Pluto TV app, which is great. Flaws in it, but all in all, it's really cool. That up until the beginning of April, they actually had Saw 3 through final chapter.
Okay.
So pretty much at least once a week, they were on demand on their platform, so you could watch it anytime you wanted. But you could take it to the bank at some point that you were going to catch it where they were going to at least play it. And once you saw they were playing Saw 3, it's like, even though they only let you see like an hour ahead of time on their TV schedules, like, you know what's coming next. And right now what they're doing is, they got this month they added in like all the Paramount Friday the 13th, so it's 1 through 8. So they did it yesterday. So that's why I was surprised when I came home and I flipped it back to that channel 68, I think, is the horror channel, and they have terror too, but 68 is horror. I was surprised because it ended overnight. I think I fell asleep. I think I fell asleep with it on. It was like it was on part 7 or something, and then it turned on tonight, and I was like, oh, that's fun. They were in final chapter. So as we speak, they're probably like in 7 again when I go back in the other room. But I've been doing a lot of streaming, a lot of catching up on, like you mentioned, Taxi, right? Taxi.
Yes. Yeah, we've been working our way through that series. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I've seen a couple of episodes here and there, but never more than just like a handful. And I've always loved everything that I've seen from that show. So it's like, okay, well, why not? Why not watch that? It's like there's so much content from when TV started to now, and you completely forget about all that. Like, there's plenty of shows that I probably won't ever consider going back and watching because they're just completely of their time, and have not aged well. Like, I remember it was like probably it's got to be over a decade now. I tried watching like Thundercats, and my God, oh my God, like I don't know that anybody can watch that show now because nobody you'd have to have like an attention span that just seldom exists in today's day and age anymore, just to sit through those episodes.
It's hard for things to last, but a lot. That's why it bugs me when people just anoint these shows as, oh my God, this is the best show ever. Oh, this because in all honesty, there's a certain component of that you need time.
Yes.
You need things to settle. One of the things that used to always drive me up the wall is when back when I was a kid, when we used to get like TV Guide all the time, is that inevitably TV Guide would always have those episodes with like, oh, the best characters of all time, best episodes of all time, best show, and you could take it to the bank that at least like close to 50% of what was the content and what they were telling you was the best of all time were all things that have occurred like within the last 5 years, and it's like, there's no perspective. I mean, I remember when people were, and forget about ha 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 about, not really ha ha ha, but the shaking your head ha 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 of what happened to him, But when the Cosby Show came out, that show wasn't even on like for 2 years, and the TV Guide was literally talking about this show, comparing it to like The Honeymooners, or like I Love Lucy. And it's like, wait a minute, you're talking about shows that have survived for like 30, 40 years already in syndication since they were on the air. and they just keep surviving. And
well, to be fair,
yeah.
The Cosby Show probably would have also been like that.
See, I disagree because this Cosby Show never really was that big when it went off the air. It never was really big in syndication. It never was big the way. You know. It's hard to compare. It's really hard to compare because what's one of the things we've lost now with every channel on our TV being part of a network and with all these other syndication the way it used to be doesn't exist anymore. But a lot of shows became super successful in syndication when they were so successful when they were first run. Like The Odd Couple became super popular in syndication. It was not really a big hit when it was on ABC. It became big in like from the mid '70s going forward because of syndication.
But by the same token, like, you know, the Cosby Show was like still decently popular, like on like Nick at Night and stuff like that for a long time to come, and you know, obviously now it's not, you know, it's not anywhere because of what happened, but by the same token, like the Honeymooners like was on for a long time, and now it's like, okay, well, the only place you're really gonna watch, and I mean, and when I say that now, I'm saying like for like the past like at least 20 years, the only time you were seeing the Honeymooners was on like
Channel 11 for us in our area.
Yeah,
right?
It was like Channel 11, and it was like for like a New Year's Eve marathon.
That's,
you know,
yes, that's true. But that's also, but like I said, that like I was referring to, I should say, that was part of the change. How everything's part of a network, and there's no quote unquote. When I say independent programming, I mean not because you create it yourself, but because you have a say in what's going to be on. And that's the way it used to be probably when you were growing up and when I was growing up. Channel 11, Channel 5, Channel 9, WOR. There was a huge percentage of that programming that was unique to that channel. Just like there used to be movies all the time. Overnight, they used to have, there used to be, I remember like this was yesterday on Channel 9, WOR, Saturday nights. They would have WWF wrestling on from 12 to 1. And then they would have horror movies on from like 1 o'clock all the way to 5 o'clock. And they would do that every Saturday night. And overnight and during weeknights, like on Channel 11, they used to have like the Odd Couple used to be on at 11, and then they had the Honeymooners on at 11:30, and sometimes they switched them up. And then sometimes, like they had the Three Stooges. Sometimes they had multiple episodes of the Twilight Zone. They had different things all mixed in. And you're right, the Honeymooners they bring back now for New Year's Eve. But the Honeymooners for a long time was being played. It's like Gilligan's Island. It's hard to find Gilligan's Island on a regular channel now, unless it's like some Nick at Night or one of the variations on that. But Gilligan's Island used to be on forever. You know, that's why that show was. That's why that show was so popular. I mean, it was popular when it was on to begin with. But that's the change in the landscape. But you're right, mate.
And if you're, but like you said, like if you're, you know, if you're looking at the landscape that's changing and that channels keep on popping up and there's new distribution models and all this other stuff, like the Honeymooners, which had there were a lot fewer shows like the Honeymooners that they could show like that. So they were up against less competition. You know, they were more established because they were there, you know, basically the beginning of, you know, all that shit, the syndication and everything. And, you know, like stuff like that, like kind of had a head start. So now when, you know, you go to like the 80s, if you've got a show from the 80s that is still, you know, in any way, shape or form, like, you know, fondly remembered now, like it's doing as well as the Honeymooners, if not better, based on the competition that they are up against, in my opinion. You know, like something like Cheers. Like Cheers, people still watch Cheers. Like Cheers, I mean, it's not as big now because, again, even more competition. But I mean, like, like Friends, everybody watches Friends. Everybody watches The Office. Like those shows.
And Seinfeld has held up more than I ever thought it was going to. I would have.
I think that one's kind of petering out a bit. But
I think it is, but I never really watched Seinfeld all that much when it was on. But because it was such a show that was tied to its period of time.
Yes.
I really didn't think that show was ever going to hold up in syndication and moving on going once they left the air. I never really thought it was that it would be remembered all that well. But it seemed, and you're right, it may have peaked, but I think it did better than I thought. Just like a show like Two and a Half Men has seemed to do quite well in syndication for a show that you would think that show probably wouldn't have held up, even though it's not as uniquely tied to a time frame like the 90s. Seinfeld just seemed to represent the 90s. But I get what you're saying, but my point about the Honeymooners was, about the Cosby Show was it had barely been on the air yet, and you're comparing it to shows that have stood the test of time. Like if you're comparing something to I Love Lucy, you have to be that's a pretty high bar you have to clear. I Love Lucy has been around since the 1950s, and that revolutionized the way you make a sitcom.
Yeah.
And the fact it's still friggin' fun. That's the thing too. Part of the reason why people like the Honeymooners is because it's still funny. But I Love Lucy is just that's a whole different. I Love Lucy was such a well created show. It's such a funny show. But the Honeymooners, I give props to the Honeymooners because, as we know, the Honeymooners that most people remember was like there weren't that many episodes. It was like one season. There weren't even that many episodes. That's why when they had those lost episodes, remember, all those skits they found from like the tapes they found from like the old Jackie Gleason show or whatever. That's why they became a big deal, because the fact that people liked the Honeymooners, but there really wasn't many. There weren't many episodes. The material was small. Even Gilligan's Island was on for like 4 or 5 years, because you saw the black and white episode, the black and white season or whatever, and the Odd Couple was 5 seasons. So because there always was that criteria, I think, for syndication, you always had to have like at least 100 episodes.
Yes.
So that's why some shows basically just you just had they did what you could to make sure you got to 100 episodes, because that way you could make the money selling it to. But that's one of those things I look at. But yeah, I think. But like you mentioned, you've been watching Taxi. Taxi's a really good show. I used to watch Taxi, and like I told you, I've been watching on Pluto. They have it really is the One Day at a Time channel, but they do mix in All in the Family, which I don't quite know why. Obviously, because certainly One Day at a Time has had enough seasons that they could just keep it, because Lord knows they have other channels on Pluto TV. They have an Addams Family channel. The Addams Family was not on that long, so if they were worried about being repetitious, that but I don't think they have all of One Day at a Time, because I don't remember seeing I certainly have never caught it when they were doing the last few seasons of it. But just like All in the Family, I don't know if they have all of All in the Family before it transitioned into Archie Bunker's place either, because seems like it's a perpetual loop I catch it in. But it's always it's cool going back and being able to watch some of that. Brings back a lot of memories, especially All in the Family, obviously a show that could never exist today the way that show was back in the day.
Yeah.
You'd be hard pressed even on cable to have that show be able to. On pay cable to be able to have on like HBO or something to have that show be able to survive all the moaning and bitching and protesting and hurt feelings and I'm offended.
Well, but that was the point of the show.
Oh, of course it was the point of the show, but but a lot of people aren't bright enough or given enough to realize that. Yeah, that was the point of the show. But don't forget, some people, not just because of what Archie would say, some people would be offended because he was the main character, and they were trying to balanced out his moronic statements with the fact that deep down you knew he wasn't a horrible person, but he was extremely narrow-minded and bigoted and a product of kind of like how he grew up and the age that he grew up.
Yeah. What'd you call it? I just remembered they do have a Family Guy for today. It's called an All in the Family.
Oh, Family Guy?
Yeah, completely screwed that up. But yeah, basically Family Guy is All in the Family for the modern day.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like he says like the most like offensive stuff all the time. That's.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. There are certain elements of that you're right. That is true. I think maybe because it's animated, you get away with. I think you might get away with more crap if you were. Or you maybe I don't know. It is weird. It's just we just live in a society where you say anything that one person gets offended by, somehow you're not supposed to have the right to say it, which is the whole point of freedom of speech. Is that one person can be offended because you're wearing a yellow shirt today. Does that mean you shouldn't have a right to wear a yellow shirt? So, but nonetheless. But quarantine is fun. I had my first quarantine haircut today.
Really?
Yes. I should take a picture. I don't actually think I don't actually think it turned out that bad.
Wait, buzzer?
Yeah. My mom helped me out with the back because that's the tricky part because I can't see what I'm doing. I mean, she got the ball rolling. I did the sides and the top pretty well, but the clipper was set on the same setting, so it feels like the back's okay, but I have to look at it in the mirror. But I know the top. I didn't want to take it all the way down because I'm still holding out hope by the end of friggin' May I actually can get a legitimate haircut. And if I buzz it down too short, then I'll be waiting. Then the good news is I won't need a haircut, but I won't even be able to get one if I want to go back and shape my hair because there'll be too little that'll grow back in a month. So it was a middle ground, but yeah, I was able to squeeze a haircut in the weekend when everything was shutting down because my original haircut was on May 27th, but I moved it up to the 20th. March 27th. I moved it up to March 20th when we found out that was the weekend Cuomo was shutting everything down on Sunday night.
Yeah.
So I was able to get it buzzed down on that, and here we are. Getting close to a month and a half later. It's like by conventional standards, my hair wasn't long, but by my standards, it was starting to be really annoying.
Yeah, I don't remember. I want to say that maybe a week or two into February was my last haircut.
How often do you usually go?
I usually go every couple of months. Well,
okay.
Let's say. So it was February, March, April. Now is the time where it'd be okay, well, I could really use a haircut now. And I would be, making sure that I got over there this week. This literally would have been the pushing the limit of when I would be getting my hair cut. So, yeah. So if they want to end this quarantine anytime, be real nice for my hair.
I know. At this, I know a lot of people were just hoping. Oh, May 15th. It's I don't think we're gonna be in that.
Yeah.
Even me up here, I mean, I have a better chance of the reins being loosened a little bit up here before in the city and Long Island and everything else. But I don't. A lot of the buzz on the street is that's not, we're not going to be even we're not going to be in phase one of reopening stuff, and it's oh my god, it's you got to be kidding me. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're both in New York for anybody that's listening. And yeah, I mean, they're talking about okay, once May 15th rolls around, then they're going to do okay, some people the construction industry, which I mean, to my knowledge, never really stopped. But the construction industry is going to go back to work, and a couple other, industries are going to go back to work, and then they're going to give it 2 weeks and see how that goes. So I don't know if they're starting that May 1st or May 15th, but, then you're talking about either May 15th or June 1st that the next wave is going to be doing anything, and it's just like everything is so slow. Everything it's crawling out. Everything is just crawling. Like I just going crazy.
No,
Just going crazy, stuck in the house.
Yeah, it's getting old. It's getting
yeah.
It's getting real old. We did this, we flattened the curve, which we did on purpose just to make sure the healthcare system didn't crumble. It was never to stop this thing. It was just to slow the spread of it. I mean, it's a virus. It's going to work its way through the way it's meant to work its way through. It'd be interesting to see, like, you had both your antibody and your just straight up COVID test today.
Yes.
I'm supposed to have my physical in June, so if that appointment doesn't get canceled, that when I go for blood work at the end of, I'll say this month, because by the time this episode gets released, it will be May. I did email today to ask to see if the antibody test could be added on to my blood work order, which is already in. But I would be curious to see how many of us if we could really know how many of us have really already been exposed to this. Probably more than we think. Probably a lot of people have had it and just have been asymptomatic. But it's time. I mean, if you still want to wear masks and go and still be cautious, that's fine. But I mean, enough's enough. The idea that to some people, like, we can't go back until there's like a virus, this vaccine for the virus, or until we know there's a drug that it's like life, man. I mean, nobody wants any. I mean, we have to make light of. Not that I think I ever make light of it, but the reality is, nobody wants anybody to die from this, but die from any disease, from the flu, from cancer, from anything. But you can't avoid it no matter what you do. You can't avoid getting people dying in car accidents. As safe as you make, as much safer as safe as cars are today compared to even like 10, 15 years ago. The reality is, you try to do what you can. But again, from my personal take, is the whole Mr. Spock thing: the needs of the many versus the needs of the few. And what we're doing now is not really in the best interest of the needs of the many, because the overwhelming majority of people in this country, even if they got COVID-19, we're not going to get seriously sick or die. It's a very small percentage of people that would be even. So it's hard to really rationalize and justify it for that reason, especially now that it's got dragged on.
Well, I think, from my experience, I think it really depends on your personal situation as far as whether, where you stand on this. Like, if you're holed up in some, like, nice place and you have just endless free time to play video games, and, you're still getting paid sick leave or something like that, then you're going to be like, let it ride, baby, let it ride. You have literally no motivation to want this whole thing to end. But I mean, aside from like the people that are like at the food, the food pantries and things like that, where the lines are like miles long for people to, just get food so that they could keep surviving because they have no money. Like, the situation due to this shutdown is so dire. And I think a lot of people that are like, we want this quarantine to keep on lasting until there's a vaccine, like, they don't realize, the repercussions. Like, and everybody that says, like, oh, well, we're not going to trade lives for the stock market. Like, if when you distill it down to just the stock market, like, that's an oversight of people's lives. People don't want to die. We don't want people to die needlessly. But I mean, that's kind of what we're setting them up for now, if this quarantine lasts for, months and months on end, and they have no means of making money. And every once in a while, the government just, shoots out $1,000 check, like, that's a drop in the bucket for these people who still have to pay rent. They may have a break from it temporarily if they pass laws or things like that, but eventually that rent's going to come due. And that $1,000 is like, okay, well, do I put it towards rent or do I eat? because I can't make any money because there's no jobs open.
Yeah, I think a lot. Now we also know a lot of how you're going to look at this depends on your where you fall on the political spectrum too, because some people think the government should. This is their dream that the government can that you pretty much have no freedom when the government pays for. You live entirely on the government. You're completely dependent on everything from the government. But the reality also is it's like when people just say, oh yeah, it's a stock. Who cares about the stock market? It's like you do realize how most people who say that are probably so young that they don't understand that it's not just rich people who care if the stock market does well. So many people have their money related to pensions and IRAs and all these different things tied into the market. So if that tanks, then people's forget about their present, their future is at risk depending on how old they are when this goes belly up. You have all these small business owners that are being forced to close, and they can't live indefinitely. You can't keep your thing closed and keep your business closed indefinitely, and so it's just people have to be. This is also the way I look at it. Forget about forget about the relatively small mortality rate of this and the recovery rate. Let's just look at the fact that all along you knew there was like about a 4 to 6% of the population that would be at high risk for this, which is the same 4 to 6 for the most part that'd be at high risk for any kind of serious respiratory illness. But if we were told every single day we left the house, we had a 94% chance we were going to make it home absolutely the way we left. But there was a 6% chance something bad during the course was going to happen to us. And bad could be inconvenience bad, frustrating bad, all the way up to dead. Right? The majority of people would look at that and say, those are pretty damn good odds still that I'm going to make it home okay. And even if something bad happens to me, the odds of it being on the absolute far end of that bad scale are still really low. I'm going to go about my business and not worry about it. But there would be some people that say, oh, that's 6% chance. I'm not going to risk it. And a lot of people would say, well, I wouldn't live that way, but if you are afraid but that 6% is too high and you want to stay at home, that's fine. But if those people who were afraid to leave the house said, you can't leave the house because I'm afraid, then there'd be a problem. Then people wouldn't be so willing to just say, because you're afraid, it means I can't leave. And I get it. I understand, but I think not to preach, I think this was handled poorly, which is not a shot at any party or the president versus the governor or anything. The reality is the people that were at high risk, those are the ones that should have been quote unquote quarantined or kept at home. The people dealing with those people were the ones that should have had to take more precautions and be more careful. If they wanted to suggest that that the rest of us wear masks and stuff like that, okay, but the rest of us should have been able to continue on with their lives. Because
they were actively telling us that masks wouldn't do anything in the beginning. Don't waste your time with masks.
Well, because we know cloth masks, unless they're like double layers, really aren't really much good. They're better than nothing, but supposedly they're not much better than nothing. Not much better than nothing at all. But that's true. But you're right. There's contradictory information, and it's the fact that the projected death toll on this has always been lower than they said it was going to be. Now whether that's because we did flatten the curve to a certain extent and that has had an impact, or the models they were using were wrong. But even so, when you think about it, is that this was never projected percentage-wise to be a big killer, because it was never even projected to wipe out 1% of the population. That means it's not that deadly. It's not Ebola. If this was an Ebola outbreak across the country, then you probably would be you'd be talking about half the population of the country would be at risk of dying. That's serious. If you're talking about something that's going to take out a fraction of 1% of your population, at worst case scenario, as bad as that is in a vacuum, that's not a big killer. Not enough to justify shutting everything down.
I do tend to think that we probably did decrease the amount of deaths significantly because of the shutdown. So, I mean, I think that the death, toll percentage-wise would definitely be over 1% if we hadn't. I think it might be closer to 2. I mean, if the health system did break.
Yeah, if it did crumble, but...
if the health system crumbled, we could be up at 5%.
Well, I don't...
It's a possibility.
Anything's possible. I just go back to the numbers they were telling us. Again, this is why their numbers have been wrong. They were telling us if we did nothing, that 2 to 2.5 million people would die. That's less than 1%. And that's if we did nothing. So, I mean, we live in a country of over 300 million people, so that's less than 1% of the population. Now, nobody would want that. Nobody's saying that's a good thing. But the point is, if we're being told if we did absolutely nothing, it wouldn't even take out 1% of your population, it's still kind of hard to think that doing what we did for as long as we did. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't understand the flattening the curve rationale makes sense because, or else you get Italy, where everybody gets sick at once and nobody can, and there's no room at the inn. So if you get sick now, guess what? The odds are you're probably going to die. If you're that sick where you need to be hospitalized, you're probably going to die because they don't have room for you. And even if they did, they're stretched to the max, so you're going to get like a fraction of the care you normally would. Yes, I understand they were trying to do that, trying to avoid that, but still, the reality is there still were ways to do what they did without shutting. Not for this long, not for this long. But either way, it's hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel for at least certain parts. Obviously, some parts of the country are just getting their like I think like the Midwest are getting their uptick and they're hitting their peak now. It looks like in our area we've kind of peaked.
Yes.
So, but it's life, man. What passes for life in 2020?
Listen, I just want that. I want the vaccine. Just let us have the vaccine. Like, what the hell? Like, we've got a president who's so lax on regulations and whatnot, but yet vaccines still have to go through the rigorous trials.
Well, they are speeding it along, but you can't. But all kidding aside, we know you can't kick too many hurdles out of the way because you don't want a vaccine that you don't. Because of all things, you don't want a vaccine. You don't want to start having to mass vaccinizing people for a virus that at the moment is like killing like 0.05% or something of the people who get it, and all of a sudden you give them the vaccine and the vaccine kills like 3% of the people who get it. You do not want that.
Whoops.
Yeah. Whoops. That would be your ultimate example of where the cure is worse than the disease, right? Literally. So that's why, yeah, I understand why you have to be cautious because it's the side effects, and because they've instilled so much fear in people that people would be lining up left and right to get the vaccine, and if it turns out that hey, we didn't test it enough, it could be a lot of problems if there's side effects, especially if they don't know what the side effects are. So.
Yeah, but those high risk people can deal with that.
Well, they wouldn't be. I don't know, man.
I know. I
know you're kidding, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think people. I just find it funny, like the people that normally would be like anti-vaxxers are like praying for vaccines. That's kind of there's certain more than a little irony in that. It's like you're not gonna vaccinate my kid. Oh, please develop this vaccine. It's like I don't know. The world's a mess.
And on that note,
yes. This has been a real cheerful episode, even though we've had moments of... But it sums up the quarantine, so maybe it's very apropos.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we could get everybody's mind off the quarantine.
And thanks to Jim and I thank us both for giving the least listened to episode of the season of the whole year so far.
Let's hope.
There were some upbeat moments, but yeah, it may not have been as upbeat as we wanted, but we probably should have planned this episode out more.
They can't all be winners.
No, they can't all be winners, but hey, but you people are locked in, so I'm sure you'll be happy just to have quote unquote content. No, we're kidding.
Like a con job on this one.
Yes. Yes, the usual suspects, lanterncast@gmail.com, lanterncast.com, 708 Lanterns, the voicemail, Facebook, Twitter, use hashtag GLCast to find us on those, and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher, wherever you listen to us on. Please leave us a positive review. You got anything to push, Jim?
Nothing yet.
All right. Jim and I should be back for a pre-birth sometime, and we sadly, not sadly for Jim, sadly for me, because I'm the one who stamped a date on that. I really did want to get this done by the end of the first quarter, and we obviously failed. We didn't get it done by March. So
no.
But we did do a besides this episode, we actually did do a toy episode. So we did do some recording. So I guess we'll get by the end of the second quarter. Hopefully, if not like knocking on the door of like the end of June. But we have plans. We'll get it done. But I just wanted to apologize for that delay. And we originally thought about making this a toy episode, which probably, I don't know,
would have been better.
It might have been. We could always just change. We could go back and re-record the opening. No one will ever know.
Oh man.
But the reality is, it is what it is. So
sometimes you just want to talk about what's on your mind.
That is true, and that is, and I think that was it's the zeitgeist of the times. That's kind of, I think, what drove this episode to the forefront all along, was the idea that yes, just what we're thinking about, just the stuff we're dealing with on a day in and day out basis, and we're all, and I mean all of us, not just like Jim and I, in different ways. We're all kind of working through the same stuff. So maybe we at least took your mind off your own individual issues, at least for part of the episode.
And focus on our problem.
That's right. Focus on our problem. And we didn't even mention toilet paper. Even though I know it's less of an issue for you probably, but I mean, to be knock on wood, I'm not up Schitt's Creek for toilet paper at the moment either. But we know it is. We know it's an issue, but at least on the bright side, we did not talk about shortages until now.
Oh God, yeah. Okay,
that'll be for the second quarantine episode in the fall when it comes back. We're kidding. We're kidding. And on that note, good night, everybody.
Okay, good night, everybody.